All right, let's jump right in. Today we're talking about something that affects every single one of us, our health. But here's the thing, what it actually means to be healthy is changing, and it's changing fast. The old rules just don't apply anymore. So what are the new rules? Let's figure it out.
So, think about this for a second. It's kind of a paradox, right? We've basically conquered these terrifying diseases like smallpox that haunted humanity for centuries. You just don't see it anymore. But at the exact same time, things like diabetes, heart disease, they're skyrocketing. It feels like we've just swapped one big problem for another. So why? What's going on here?
To really get to the bottom of that question, we have to take a step back. Because to make sense of the health challenges we're facing right now, we first need to understand the battles we've already won and see just how much our world has been completely transformed.
Okay, let's start with a massive win for humanity. I'm talking about taming our ancient enemy, communicable diseases. You know, the germs, the viruses, the infections. For most of history, these were the things that people feared the most. And there's no better story to illustrate this than the victory over smallpox. This disease was an absolute monster. But then, back in the 1700s, a doctor named Edward Jenner noticed something fascinating. Milkmaids who got a really mild disease called cowpox never seemed to get the deadly smallpox. So he formed a hypothesis, he tested it, and it worked. This single observation led to the world's very first vaccine. Fast forward through a massive global effort, and by 1979, smallpox was declared completely, totally eradicated from the planet. I mean, what an incredible achievement for science and teamwork.
But here's the twist. While we were celebrating these amazing victories, something else, something much quieter, was starting to bubble up. We were winning the war against germs, but the way we were starting to live our lives was creating an entirely new kind of problem.
And if you want to understand the scale of this new crisis, just look at this number, 100 million. That's how many people in India alone are now living with diabetes. And this isn't a bug you can catch. This is what we call a non-communicable disease, or an NCD.
And these things are often all tangled up together. For instance, almost 29% of adults in India are now classified as obese. When you put it all together, NCDs, diabetes, heart conditions, certain cancers, they've now become the biggest health threat in the country. So what on earth is driving this huge shift?
Well, the culprit isn't a single virus we can put under a microscope. The drivers are, well, pretty much all around us. They're woven right into our modern lifestyles. We're talking about the explosion of processed and fast foods, spending way more time sitting in front of screens, living in more polluted areas, and even things like chronic stress and feeling lonely. All these things are literally changing our bodies.
So this new reality, it forces us to basically hit the reset button on what being healthy even means. It's not just about dodging germs anymore. It's not just about the absence of a sickness you can name. The very definition of health has gotten a whole lot bigger.
The World Health Organization puts it perfectly. They say health is a state of complete physical, mental, and social well-being, not just being free of disease. Look at these three pillars. They're all connected. You can't be truly healthy if one of them is weak. Sure, your body needs to be in good shape, but so does your mind, and so do your connections with other people. They're all part of the same puzzle.
And you know, what's amazing is that this isn't some radical new idea. Ancient wisdom, like the principles of Ayurveda, has been talking about this for centuries. This idea that real health is all about finding a balance between your body, your mind, and your environment. Modern science is really just catching up to this ancient truth.
Okay, so this might sound a bit overwhelming, right? We've got new challenges, a broader definition of health, but what can we actually do about it? The good news is we're not helpless. So let's talk about the practical tools we all have at our disposal. This is your Modern Health Toolkit.
When it comes to managing these modern health issues, it really comes down to the small choices you make every single day. It's a game of consistency. It's about building the good habits, eating well, moving your body, getting enough sleep, making time for your friends. And it's just as much about limiting the bad stuff, the junk food, the endless screen time, the smoking. These small daily actions are truly your best line of defense.
Now, speaking of our toolkit, modern medicine has given us some incredible tools. But here's a catch.
The misuse of one of our most powerful tools has created a brand new threat, one that kind of connects the old world of germs with our new one. It's called antibiotic resistance, and it's basically when bacteria, the very things we're trying to kill, actually evolve and learn how to beat our best drugs.
So how does this happen? Well, imagine you take an antibiotic when you don't really need it, like for a cold, which is a virus. The drug goes in and kills off a lot of bacteria, including the good guys that help you. But there might be a few tough bacteria that happen to be naturally resistant. With all the competition wiped out, they are now free to multiply like crazy. And these new superbugs can then spread to other people, making common infections suddenly very difficult to treat. That's why it is absolutely critical to only use antibiotics when a doctor says it's necessary.
So we've seen how the rules of the game have completely changed. We've shifted from fighting outside enemies like smallpox to managing our own internal balance, what we eat, how we move, how we think, and how we use medicine wisely. Being healthy isn't a passive state anymore. It's an active daily practice, which really just leaves one final thought for you to take away. If your health truly is your greatest treasure, how are you choosing to invest in it today? Thanks for tuning in to The Explainer.